What's going on, everyone? We are the Friendly Neighborhood Fanboys, and welcome back to episode 2 of Filoni Mignon. And today we're doing a deep dive on Ahsoka episode 3. This one is going to be crazy. This one's going to be crazy. But before we do that, if you could like the video and subscribe, that really does help us out here at the channel. If you're listening audio only, you could follow us everywhere on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whichever app of your choice.
I'll tell you what, boys. My first initial reaction to this episode was like, yeah, it was like pretty good. Like, you know, it felt short to me, but I think that's just because I wanted more because I was getting into it like Dan and I discussed, which we will discuss more. But after thinking about it, I was like, holy shit, this was actually amazing. I actually really loved it. And like, even when we were talking on the way here, I was just like, wow. So this show continues to feel like Star Wars.
Very
that's
much
all
so.
I've ever been asking for. So you know what? Thank you, Mr. Mignon. Appreciate it.
Thank you for meeting the absolute lowest standard of making Star Wars feel like Star Wars.
I will give him more credit than that.
No,
though.
absolutely.
I will give the whole
I'm
team more
joking.
credit. No, I know what you're trying to say. Yeah, I agree. Well, we had that conversation already. I agree with you. I loved it from the second that I saw it. It was phenomenal. It was great.
Yeah. After about a second and a half, I started to love it. I would say weirdly, my favorite part was like when Ahsoka was training Sabine.
100%.
Because it just felt like just Luke and Obi-Wan. And I was like, wow, I never thought I would like that the most out of an episode with like that much.
There's so many
stuff
throwbacks.
happening.
It's just like nostalgic. It felt like
100%. But like it also just like it gave me that feeling of what I remember from Star Wars as a kid, which was just like master and apprentice, just like a Jedi up and coming, and just I don't know, it just like hit me in the feels. I really liked that. So that spacewalk scene though,
That was sick.
So sick.
Wow.
So great.
even the dogfighting too felt like right out of A New Hope. When the TIE fighters were attacking
100%.
the Millennium Falcon, I was like, oh, even the way the ships were kind of like moving, I was like, oh, is that a model? Or obviously it's not, but it's like it just felt like like Star Wars.
And using like
Sick.
Using the Purgles as cover was sick too.
Yeah.
It was
Yes.
just like, was it like was it Empire when they hide in the giant worm in the asteroid? Was
Yeah.
that-
And they turn the power off to cloak it.
It was just give me flashbacks.
Yeah,
To
it actually made it. I actually forgot about that part in Empire. It actually made me think of the classic Star Trek episode called Balance.
There was a lot of Star
Terror.
Trekky things like the forest at the end, like the red trees.
Yes,
We all
literally.
said into darkness.
Okay,
Into darkness.
I actually took a note of that, of all the references that I noticed to other things in this episode that we can get to.
There's so much I want to talk about.
Yeah.
But we'll
Well, why don't we start off from like the beginning? Like, let's start off from like where the episode starts. Then, in that case, that training sequence. Just to build off what you said, that stood out to me. That's probably
that
the highlight
droid.
of the episode.
I keep thinking, I'm like, is this practical? Is it not?
I
Like,
think
it
in
just-
the tights it's practical,
Yeah,
which I
but-
noticed when he's sitting down. You can blatantly tell it's like almost puppeted. There's probably like a guy behind it.
which is great though. Like I love that. But even when it's animated, they still give it that like jerky kind of, which is sick.
It's like they
very
take the
smooth,
reference.
though. Like it's jerky, but it's smooth. Like usually when there's a puppet, like you can tell. Like when you look at Yoda, you're like, okay, that's a guy in a sock puppets. But like with this, it's like it's very like the fluidity of the movement is very consistent between the CG shots and the practical shots.
Yeah, like that. The 4 training saber things was so cool. I was like, wow,
so
I
sick,
love
and
that.
the score there too was unreal.
Yeah.
The score, I think.
Yeah.
I also know. I was just saying, like, to build off of that, because I took a note that I want to talk about that training sequence when she was training with the droid at first, and then first of all, I thought it was a really cool idea, like that kind of hologram. This episode made a couple of references to like it's Star Wars, the franchise's samurai film roots. You know what I mean? Like when she's like kind of doing like just like focusing on her striking, but then the way the droid recorded the striking on the strike's accuracy like on the thing, I'm like,
so
this
cool.
is such a cool thing. And one little reference that I don't know if this was like intentional, I don't know if this was around before, but they mentioned when Ahsoka comes in, she says, should we try Satoichi? And that is a reference. And then she pulls out the helmet, which I'm pretty sure she was referring to. Satoichi is like what the helmet is called, which is a reference to A New Hope. But Satoichi is actually like a classic long-running Japanese samurai like film series franchise, like, and it focuses on a samurai that's blind.
That's so cool.
That's so cool. He's a samurai that can't see, but he's like a master swordsman. And they made something crazy. There's something like 21 movies or something like, or 12 movies or something like that. So I was like,
I wonder if he made it all the way through.
I wonder if he saw the films.
If anyone's listening and anyone wants to get into that kind of shit though, fantastic franchise. Go check it out. You can stream it on like the Criterion channel, which is like really good. Great movies. But when they pulled the reference out, I was like, holy, this is like some deep, because most people know that A New Hope was originally based on Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress, right? It's just in space. So the fact that they're making reference and like slight nods to like their samurai film roots, that got me.
Yeah.
I love those movies. So that got me.
That was sweet. I don't know if you noticed too, the like the training droid, like the ball droid. I don't even know if that's the proper way to say that, but they were on that same rack where she pulls the helmet off. Yeah.
Nice. I didn't notice that.
So that was a cool little
it's
nod.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It feels like it's in Star Wars, the universe, you know what I mean? Which is awesome.
Yeah,
it's a really great.
I know. It's like so
crazy
sick.
world building. Eh?
Yeah. Wow, this is in Star Wars.
Yeah, seriously.
I love how sassy the droid is too.
Yeah.
And they keep pulling back from those like older times, which is nice. Like reference to prequels, please.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
unreal.
And the dichotomy between Ahsoka and Sabine. That training scene, first of all, I like how long it was and how drawn out it was, because it makes Sabine's progress later on in the episode in the dogfight feel earned. Right? And I hope they kind of keep continuing that training thread going forward, because it's not like, oh hey, she trained for 2 seconds and now she's like unreal at everything, like
right, Ray?
like Ray, yeah, right.
I thought she was gonna start like when she was like reaching for the teacup. I'm like, I swear to God, if that teacup moves.
And I like how again, I like how she didn't do that, right? But it's interesting to see the dichotomy between Ahsoka and Sabine, because Ahsoka is still like in that lineage of an old like Jedi Republic kind of way of like philosophy, if you will, right?
Speaking
where she's
of lineage,
teaching her about the
oh
Force.
yeah, that burn, but
that line. Okay,
Yeah.
but how cool is this though? When is it Hu Yang? Is he droid? Yeah. When he's like, oh yes, you do come from a long lineage of unorthodox Jedi. So it's like Ahsoka, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Count Dooku. Like, how's that lineup of
It's
like
insane.
passed down knowledge?
Yeah.
And those are
Yeah.
all people who are like went off, other than Obi-Wan, but even he definitely had a different story than most Jedi. But I was like, wow,
Well,
Yeah.
he was trained by Qui-Gon, who,
it's just the best ever.
I mean, sorry, I'm just repeating you because I'm going back down the chain. I was gonna say he was trained by Qui-Gon, who was trained by Count Dooku, and I'm like,
Yeah. That's so cool. Like,
Yeah,
I love,
it was
I love
great.
little stuff, little lines like that. That was sick.
I don't know if this is a small little like one-off here, but did you see that meme going around with Qui-Gon from the Obi-Wan show, like his Force ghost?
watching us Sabine
Yeah.
get stabbed.
He's just like,
Survives, yeah.
yeah, that was awesome.
Isn't it Michael Scott's face too? And he's just like,
yeah.
Or it was one like there was like a freeze frame of like him talking, the one I saw, and his hands are just kind of like out. And it's just like almost like a what the fuck. You know what I mean? Yeah, so funny. So true though. Like what
it
the
is
fuck.
true. Yeah.
Anyway.
Let's talk about the Senate meeting.
Oh yeah, some Phantom Menace politics in
Yeah.
that scene. Loving it.
I really like how Mon Mothma is like, you can tell she really wants to help, and she's kind of like the force in between. That's just like, oh come on, like I really hope I can like send aid with you, but like at the same time, like
Because she was actually in it. Like when Hera's like,
Exactly.
"Are you in the war?" Just calls all of them out. I'm
Yeah.
like,
That was a
I was
great
like,
moment.
yeah.
That was so sick.
I like that moment too of like when she first heard that Mon Mothma was like now Chancellor, like Chancellor, like because we haven't heard the term
Yeah.
Chancellor since Palpatine, so it's
Yeah.
just like, and then like you kind of see how like corrupt the board of senators is, and it's just like, oh, like this is like a direct parallel to like how the Senate started in the in the Empire era. So it's
Hera
just,
even
like,
says too, "Oh, you just sat around and waited to see who came out on top." I was like,
yeah.
Damn.
Where were you during the war?
"Yeah."
I was like,
"Holy!" Like,
which
what
is such a great which is such a great like allegory for what's going on like today, right? Like government versus like actual troops that are fighting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just and it's interesting to see the history of the Old Republic kind of starting to repeat itself, even though they just recovered from however like what is it now? Like Empire's been around for what 15, 20 years?
Yeah, 20.
well, like the Battle of Endor in canon, what 8 years ago, like
In this show, right?
this
This
show,
is 8
right,
years
something.
after Endor. Yeah. So I mean, you see, like it's like a new Senate that's being formed, but they're still falling into the old habits.
Well, remember I even said when we were watching, I'm like, oh, so you're making the same mistakes as the Jedi. So they're like, oh, we don't see an enemy. It's like, that's exactly what the Jedi do.
Exactly.
Oh, there's no way a Sith is here. I fucking just saw one.
But again,
stabbed Qui-Gon.
Yeah, literally.
It's the same thing though, how they're really diving between that like gray area where it's just like there's not really good and evil. Like both sides are like, again, they all have their own agendas, and you'll probably find a lot of similarities between the two, right? And that's why I'm like so drawn to like these new like Sith gray Jedi characters. Like I really want to see where their story goes. I think it's Shin Hati and Baylan Skoll. I think that their names are. Ray Stevenson's character. Yeah. So,
which actually, Reese, you had an interesting point about towards the end of that dogfight.
Oh them. The like power struggle on the like villain side is like they're not working as a team. They're like, let's see who can get the most.
Yeah.
When she says to Elsbeth, when she says to Elsbeth, it's like, hey, good try, almost got him. I'm going to take him.
Yeah.
Right. It's like,
they're trying to see who can get higher to like. So when they find Thrawn, like I caught Ahsoka, or I killed. So then they're probably looking for the hierarchy once they actually find him. But
it'd be so sick if they find him and he's just like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
fuck all.
Get out of my face. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say like that was kind of like the cool thing about the end of that last episode. The Skull goes, "What happened?" Or when his apprentice asks, "What happens when we find Thrawn?" and he says, "Power beyond your imagination." Like, can you imagine like the twist? It's like Thrawn just like they finally get to them, and he completely just throws him to the side. Yeah, that'd be an interesting little twist too. So,
and all three
or Star Killer's the plant.
A fern?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
I also kind of love
a nice deciduous plant.
Big greenery guy.
I love how the episode ended off too, with them being like, "We're combing this forest right now,"
like
and it's
barber.
like each one of those three were at a different level. Like they didn't all three of them like attack Ahsoka's ship all at once, right? Like it was like you see Shin Hati, right? Yeah. You see Shin Hati first, and then leads them right into Elsbeth, right? But then like shit goes awry. They're on the planet, and then Baylan Skoll. Then Skoll is there, like trying to like compete to clean up. Like I don't know.
He looks fucking menacing, dude. Like that shot, like that hero shot. He just looks so like big and scary. Good. I'm like, you know what? It's cool to see like an experienced, mature, like evil villain again. You know, like after getting whiny, bitchy Kylo Ren, it's nice to see just like a calm, collected, like menace. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, based on the trailers, we know what's gonna happen in the next episode or two. Like they're gonna like that map thing is gonna open up, and there's probably gonna be a conflict between Ahsoka and Baylan at some point, which I'm very excited to see. But yeah, it's just nice to actually like feel like the villain is competent. Instead of just like.
Well, they even introduced them too by them like slaughtering that whole ship, which was awesome. But then like right after that, it's like, oh, you have to kill Ahsoka, and he's like, oh, that'd be a shame. So he's not just pure evil, which I love. Like, he's not just like, I'm here to kill everyone.
Literally,
like,
and in that same episode, he references like, oh well, like that's what younglings are taught. It's called. I forget like the exact context of that, but when they're talking about what the it's either like what that region is called or like what the map is called. I don't know what it is,
like,
but
a different galaxy.
Yes, but like he references like that's what like the younglings are taught. So like he's clearly referencing exactly. Yeah.
What I really quickly briefly want to touch on is that why I'm like so interested in these characters and why I loved the previous Jedi Survivor game that came out this year is that Star Wars is really tapping into that kind of like middle area where it's like you're seeing a lot of like Jedi who after the war and they might have survived and they've seen the evils that the Jedi and the Sith are capable of, and we see that they're more surviving for themselves and they're embracing sides of both rather than just like that like super black and white, which I really really like. We see that in Jedi Survivor too, where it's just like, and that's kind of where we saw the orange saber. Not for the first time, but we see it in that game, and now it's carrying over here with the orange sabers now, and it's just like that initial stage of just like kind of bleeding the crystal, but they're not like 100% evil, right? Which is like I really think I've always been really super fascinated by like that side of Star Wars, so I really hope we get to see at least a little bit more of it with these characters, because that would be really really sick.
Could you imagine if they started implementing these kind of ideas into the sequel trilogy originally, instead of having it rely solely on like the Skywalker story, which is done?
I'm just hoping that will kind of go into the Filoni verse, and then like it'll just kind of take over mainstream Star Wars, and then it'll just kind of become like, you know how at some point Force Unleashed, the video games, was considered canon, and then like a bunch of new shit came out, and it kind of like, well, that doesn't really make sense anymore, so we're gonna wipe it from the canon. So I'm kind of hoping that the new Filoni stuff will kind of like take the prominent stage and like, yeah, that kind of happened, but
let's go across the Filoni first.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say.
Literally. That's a ton of people online are saying now that they've opened the possibility, well, not the possibility, now that they've literally said, hey, we're going to a different galaxy and not the galaxy from far, far away that we're all used to, like that, you can literally just shift everything to that now. Like Thrawn could even just like be the emperor or like the heir over that entire galaxy, and that's what that new Filoni film will focus on. So like we don't even have to reference all the old shit. Like Ahsoka obviously will be core character, all these Rebels characters will be core from, you know, the existing galaxy that we know, but like other than that, it's like you don't touch anything else. You don't touch Luke. You don't touch Rey. You don't touch anything. That's its own thing. Yeah. And then obviously they're gonna make the new Rey movie, but have that be its own thing. Is that
actually a thing?
Oh yeah.
Love that. Can't wait.
But I mean,
I was so excited about Star Wars.
Here's the thing: it's like they're separating it in eras now, which like is a good and a bad thing because there's
DC Elseworld.
Yeah, but like actually though,
Star Wars Elseworlds movies.
Here's the thing though: it's like I will say that like if it just wasn't handled or planned well, like if given a plan, like the actual sequel trilogy could have been interesting, because like I'll come out and say like I liked The Force Awakens a lot when it came out.
Me too.
Like if they had just stuck with a consistent plan and they didn't rush out to churn these movies out just to make a quick buck, it could have been really good, you know. But then they changed directors like 5 times, the script was inconsistent, and then they went through a bunch of reshoots, and then we got what we got, which was a tonally inconsistent mess. So I truly believe that those characters have potential to be interesting if written properly and given an actual direction, rather than just, you know, throwing shit at the wall and see what works. So I don't know.
I definitely hear that.
I'd like to give it a chance, but I'm just so salty and tainted by what the sequels did that it's just like, fuck, what do we need a ratio? Like, I don't know.
I definitely hear that. I just my biggest, I guess, problem with the sequel trilogy, and then we'll get back on track to the actual show we're talking about. I don't think the Skywalker story should have been continued in that way.
100%.
1 to 6, let that story be. It was all resolved. Like in terms of like characters, like them kind of like going back into the bag and opening it back up, like I don't think was I don't like how, like, you know, Kylo Ren was the grandchild of Darth Vader, like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know,
it was too convenient.
It would have been more interesting to see like a totally different set of characters. Maybe like, you know, if they were to bring in Ahsoka earlier on in that sequel trilogy and kind of have her like, you know, there instead of like bringing Han and like Leia and all of them and like all them back. You could bring Luke back, but I think it would have been way more interesting if they just focus on a cult worshipping Darth Vader that's rising up in the galaxy. You know what I mean?
Those were like
rising
the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
Wow, you know what they could have done is put Thrawn as the big bad and not ruin Palpatine and Vader's whole thing.
Yeah, that would have been
well,
great.
hopefully that's where we go now, and we can just forget all of that.
Yeah.
Now
So
it's
anyways,
just a fan fiction, and you know, Kathleen Kennedy's fan fiction.
Yeah.
But okay.
Getting back to Ahsoka, if I can just bring it up, like the dogfight in this episode
so cool.
was absolutely
So sick.
phenomenal. I love the New Hope reference where Sabine gets in the gunner, you know, like Luke and Han, and when her and Ahsoka start clicking and they start actually getting some wins, and Sabine is, you know, kind of getting her like groove back and taking out some of those ships. It's like that moment I think is so powerful because of the training that happened in the beginning of the episode, right? And like the amount of time they spent on the training, I thought that was great, and it was really satisfying to see that. I really hope they continue that thread going forward.
I also think too, it was pretty cool to see Ahsoka let go of like what she thinks is right. Like she's like, use the Force, do all this shit, and then she's like, wait a minute, why don't I just let go of this and be like, and then she was literally like, okay, you tell me when to turn, like you know. And like Sabine is like this Mandalorian like warrior, like this is her battlefield. You know what I mean?
Well, even when she says that one line where it's like when she's talking to Hu Yang and she's like, I don't need her to be a Jedi, I need her to be herself.
Yes.
Which again speaks to, it's like she doesn't like she's not looking to have like this next Padawan, she's just looking for like a competent companion, basically.
I like how they disbanded with like all the typical like modern action tropes too, and like when Ahsoka first sets Sabine up for that first shot and she misses, she's like, oh, I had them, but I missed still. And she's like, okay, like, no worries. Like, let's do it again. Instead of just being like, oh, I got this. And then just commandeering it and then winning like any other show or movie would do. I really like that. I like you said, actually, like the New Hope references. But I just thought that entire ship dynamic between like them two and Hu Yang was very like Millennium Falcon.
Totally.
Like, even in pacing, like that entire dogfight was so drawn out, but in a great way.
Like the movies had drawn out, right?
Like, and it shows like the ship getting hit, and it's like, okay, like,
like
okay,
I actually felt anxious the closer they got, because it was just, it kept going, and I'm like,
and when Huang gets taken out too, right? When the power goes out and Huang gets taken out, and like that spacewalk, and like, you know, Sabine's in there trying to get like the ship
unreal.
going.
It's like, I'm gonna go defend it from the side of the ship. I'm like, it's amazing.
Me and Reese were watching. I'm like, can she deflect like ship blasters with the lightsabers? And he's like, she can. And then she goes,
and the other thing too is when she gets out there. First of all, this is kind of the first time you've seen that in Star Wars, her doing like a kind of spacewalk thing. But it's not like she goes in and just absolutely dummies them in one thing. Wait, what?
Leia.
Oh yeah,
sorry.
fucking Superman.
Yeah, fuck 8 though. Fuck that movie. Fuck that shit. But no, you're seeing her do the spacewalk. It's not like she just absolutely dummies every ship in 2 seconds, like you know, make her super overpowered. She does just enough so that Sabine can get the time to get the ship up, right?
Yeah. And she floats away for a second. She's like,
get me now.
Can you get me?
Yeah.
It was awesome.
That was unreal.
Yep. Yeah. Going through like the I don't know, have you seen those whales before in Rebels, like the flying whales and shit? So I haven't seen
those are the things that take away Thrawn and Ezra.
Okay.
So they basically attach to Thrawn's Star Destroyer and then go to hyperspace.
Figure, because that's what they were mentioning before, but even that was a cool sequence when they were getting into like the atmosphere of the planet.
It really shows the scale of them too. They're fucking massive.
Yeah. Huge. I got chills because like I'd never watched, like I've obviously seen that last scene. But what I liked was when they were explaining that, like, you know, it is a hyperspace ring, that giant ship,
the Halo ring Death Star.
Yeah. But it's like the small ones that like Obi and Anakin take. It's like that, but like just completely scaled up. And they were like, well, you know, with enough power, like hypothetically, they could make it to another galaxy. And then that's when they discover it's on the path of the Purgles, and I was like, that's sick. I'm like, I really like that.
So one thing though is like, they're making this hyperspace ring. Why not just build a ship? So is it they're about to take a ship there, or are they going to get Thrawn's fleet?
I was gonna say, I think it's gonna pick up a ship.
Because why is it a ring instead of just a ship?
True.
What are they transporting?
That's interesting. Yeah.
So that's what I've been thinking about, and I'm like, are they going to get Thrawn's fleet to bring it back, or are they bringing something there? They don't have anything here that's that big. So
I wonder what if they've been in communication the entire time, and then that unknown, you know, Inquisitor folk is Thrawn's new apprentice or whatever, and it's fucking Star Killer, and they've been talking the whole time. It's not gonna happen. But
honestly, that was my theory. I'm like, what if Merrick was a plant the whole time? Because like
Thrawn.
he's so ambiguous. But like he's so ambiguous right now. People are like, oh, it's Ezra, but like, why would Ezra randomly be back if he went with
to the
Thrawn?
dark side randomly.
Yeah, and I know they've been away for like some time,
and it turns
but like, if they're going to find him and bring Thrawn back, how did Ezra get back already?
Right.
That's what I mean. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, if there was communication somehow, that's why I'm like, oh, maybe Merrick is the plant, like from Thrawn, to make sure everything is going to plan. Because he's like, he's one of those characters that's written so low key, like you know nothing about him, and he's just kind of there, but you're like, there's no way he's just there.
No, there's a
you know what I mean? Like,
soon, right?
Was he speaking? I assume he was speaking Orobesh, right? Like here, he was speaking like a different language in the ships, or is it
no,
just,
he was speaking English.
Oh, I just couldn't understand what he was saying.
But the helmet is very reminiscent of the Star Killer armor.
Yeah,
like very much so.
Like the original one, like with the evil ending when they put him in that second suit. That's what it looks like.
I think if it is him, it obviously won't be that version of him. It'll be just a canonized version.
He'll literally destroy every single one.
It'll be like a canonized version of
like he.
All I ask is that they just do not make him fight. If it does turn out to be Starkiller or Galen Merrick or Sam Witwer under the helmet. Whatever they do, just do not do a Disney and like introduce him and like they have this reveal and then 30 minutes later in the episode he just gets waxed by Ahsoka. It's just like make him like an actual threat and make him like a pawn of Thrawn. That would be a pawn of Thrawn.
I've seen people say that it could just be like a spiritual kind of like homage to him, and it's still Sam Witwer playing him, but it's not actually Starkiller. It's just Merrick, the new Inquisitor character.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
which would be cool.
I think I just want to see Witwer under the helmet.
And then also something that I would love to see. So Thrawn was the one who started the whole TIE Defender project, which is basically like the TIE Defenders have shields, hyperdrives, like they're way better, way stronger. They like have all this stuff. But then in Rebels, you see Tarkin be like, hey, the funding is actually going towards director Krennic's project Stardust. So basically it was either TIE Defenders or the Death Star. And like Thrawn was like, why the fuck would you do that? Like you have one battle station or like a massive fleet that can actually cover the galaxy. So anyways, this is where Thrawn actually figures out what the Death Star is and like questions Palpatine on and stuff because he's the smartest person ever to exist. So but the cool thing is now that he's like away in Legends, he actually combines the Empire's technology with like Chiss technology, and there's this like it's kind of like a TIE Interceptor design and like a TIE Defender design with like Chiss stuff, and it looks so sick. So Chiss is like his like race of people.
Damn.
Yeah. But it looks so cool, and again, still has the shields and stuff. So I wonder if when we do finally get him, if he'll bring any of that technology and combine like the Empire stuff with.
That'd be sick.
And like it's shit people have never seen before too. So they're gonna be like, how the fuck do we beat this? Right?
It's actually a really cool design. Like we'll bring it up on screen right now, but I think it looks pretty cool. It's got like the TIE like ball in the middle, but then has like curved kind of like it looks mint. But it'd be cool. It'd be cool to see that stuff.
That would be sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so one question I had for you, because I'm not familiar with Rebels, is I know the Purrgil take his destroyer as well. Do you think he's going to have that now, like rebuilt and refinished, maybe with Chiss technology as well, or like do you think that's just destroyed and like we'll see him?
I'm not sure. Something that makes me think it's something completely different is through the technology that like Morgan Elsbeth has on their bridge there. Like it's a different type of hologram, right?
True.
It's more like particle and stuff. So I'm wondering if that's going to be a similar technology. They might retrofit that Star Destroyer because they have it, but it would be cool to see like a Star Destroyer, but with that
like in the ring.
Yeah.
That'd be nasty.
Can you imagine?
Well, in Legends, like Thrawn does have his own Super Star Destroyer, but I don't know why it would be out there. That's the only reason. Like I was gonna speculate on that, but I'm like, why the fuck would it be in a different galaxy? We took that too. What? One space whale pops out, grabs it. I'll take this now. But yeah, so it would be cool. It would be cool to see.
Not really sure where the show is going to be going forward at this point. I think we're still a little bit of a ways away from figuring out where Thrawn is or like what's happening. I'm looking forward to the next episode to see how they get out of the combing through the forest like bit, and I'm also interested to see the completion of the process of that Halo Ring Star Destroyer that Elsbeth has. Because once they get that final, because they already shut down like the one like factory there because they had old Empire loyalists.
They have the piece though; it's just being installed.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's right. That's right.
So all they have to do is install it. And
I must have misunderstood. I thought they were still looking for the final piece.
No, they have it. They're just
took it away.
Now that you say that, I remember them saying that it's actually being installed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're gonna see our first look at Thrawn next episode.
You think so?
I think he's gonna be the cliffhanger. Like the shot of Skull in today's episode is gonna be Thrawn, or or just his back or something.
Yeah,
like we're gonna see him next episode.
Flip off the couch.
I'm looking forward to the reveal.
I think next episode is gonna hit the fan because I think we're gonna see, based off of what we saw in the trailer, like there's gonna be like that map sequence where Skull and Ahsoka are like talking there. So I think we're gonna see Skull and Ahsoka, and I think we may end on a shot of Thrawn. That's my prediction for the next episode. But they might do one more episode to spread those two events out. So,
but at least maybe we'll get a reveal.
Yeah.
Hopefully next episode.
Yeah.
Do we know how many episodes total?
I want to say 6, but it could be 6 or 8.
Yeah, I think it's one of the two. I don't
Shit,
think they
I
go
hope
more
it's
than
8.
that.
I hope it's 8.
I hope it's 8.
Yeah,
It's got to be 8. I think they've been putting some money behind this, right?
I'm putting money
If it's
behind
6,
all
I
of it.
want 2
Yeah.
hours each on the left.
Exactly. Yeah. I could just
Yeah.
Google this right now and probably
We
find
could,
the
yeah.
answer instantly.
Yeah, probably.
Entirely possible.
But no, overall, like honestly, I don't know about you guys. This has been just like in conclusion, this has been my favorite episode so far. I think. I just love how it feels like Star Wars. We're saying it constantly, but like
But
it's
it's
so
true,
nice
though.
to actually be able to say that about a Star Wars.
So what were you saying about like
property.
the set
8.
design and everything?
8 episodes.
8
Can
episodes. Oh,
confirm.
thank you.
Okay, so maybe we won't see Thrawn next episode. I think in like episode 4
we
or
might,
5
we
we'll
might
see
get a
him,
tease
yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Might get
Yeah.
a tease, right? What I was saying earlier to answer your question is I feel like I don't know. There's something about the way it's shot, the set design, probably a combination of everything, but it feels so much like that original trilogy. Because what I notice is when you're watching the newer sequel trilogy, what they started doing with a lot of their set design, a lot of their planet design was really kind of change the design language of Star Wars, right? The original trilogy, like obviously it was 70s, 80s, right? George Lucas loved like cylinders, right? He loved circle, like he loved a lot of like rounded edges. Like when you look at everything in Cloud City, like Mos Eisley, you look at all of like these like the sets in those original films. Even in the prequels, right? Because it's still like him that was kind of in control of everything. This show, more than any other show, and especially more than the sequel trilogy, I think like harkens back to that. Like even like Ahsoka's ship, like everything. The base that Hera is in, talking to the chancellors, is like you just look at like the walls behind, and it's just I don't know. Everything just has like a nice, soft, rounded edge kind of feel to it. That's very reminiscent of that, which I think was born out of, like experimental kind of like 70s and 80s stuff.
I think it's
That's
just the
what Star Wars-
writing. The writing is what stands out to me. Like, because
I'm talking purely visual right now.
Yeah,
right.
and also too the thing that I've always loved
With the
about
writing,
Star
too.
Wars is like everything feels lived in.
Yes,
Like
yes.
nothing's like clean. Like obviously
Yes.
other than like the new ships look clean, but like I don't know, like I love that about the Millennium Falcon. It looks like he's been in service for like hundreds of years.
Literally.
It's dirty and like non-symmetrical, and it's just like practical. It feels
Yeah.
like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I like that.
That's the thing. Everything does feel practical, and that's
It's like,
that's
oh, this
the
is
really
used for
big
this,
part.
and like yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's awesome.
Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
No, it's all good. Like I think the tonality difference between the sequel trilogy and this is what like really sells the difference and why it feels like the original, because we saw in the sequel trilogy basically everything felt like, like that Disney Marvel thing that they were trying to replicate. Like everybody was like trying to be quippy and cracked like they fly, like that kind of like dumb shit.
Yeah.
So like this, like it's not like it's too serious, but it feels like just the way the performances are delivered, the way it's written, like the tonality of it feels more like, it's taking itself a bit more seriously, kind of
Yeah.
like the originals did.
It's that perfect balance between that operatic sort of quality
Yeah.
and more of like a grounded modern sort of, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
that, I feel like Andor, for example, it was on the other end of the spectrum where it was like super grounded, dirty, modern. And even that tonally was a shift away kind of from like traditional, like Star Wars stuff, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of sitting in a happy medium, which
Yep.
it's like a magic trick how they're pulling it off. Like it's crazy. Like it's sick,
1 minute you're grounded, and then the next minute it's like here's the mystical side of Star Wars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
Ahsoka flying in space using
Yeah.
lightsabers to kill us.
To go off that point though of the quippiness, like Hu Yang is like that's his personality, and
Yeah.
that's why he's quippy, not
not
like
forced.
some other character trying to do shit like that. Like
But in a C-3PO quippy kind of way.
yeah, like he's just like I'm
K2.
saying the
I
truth.
was
Like
just
he's
gonna-
not like
yeah.
trying to be like
Yeah,
funny.
exactly.
He's just like
Like K2SO is the same thing, right?
that's why they're amazing. You actually like them. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, that guy's
exactly.
not annoying.
Yeah.
It's like perfect.
100%. Yeah, it's great. I'm loving
Yeah,
it so far.
I'm looking forward to
Can't
the
wait.
next one. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below.